Hello everybody. A while ago we looked at some images of early European dwellings in Otago. Today we're going to consider a few more paintings of the places Otago's European settlers called home. First up, let's take a look at the home of Robert and Margaret Marshall of Pine Hill. Now you may remember back in our first episode of Home Sweet Home, we told the story of a dispute over the shooting of a chicken in 1859 that resulted in neighbours the MacDonalds and the Crawfords being brought before the magistrate. Similar events took place up on Pine Hill in 1868. Robert Marshall was working in the bush on his property when a young lad called out to him, "Mr. Marshall, you'd better look after your horses. They're upon our ground and Father's going to shoot them." Robert headed off towards his neighbour's property. En route, he heard a shot ring out. As he reached a clearing, his horses ran out onto the track, one of the pair with blood streaming from its nostrils and down its forelegs. Upon examination, he found the horse had been shot in the head. 3 men allegedly seen leaving the scene of the crime were arrested on the charge of shooting with intent to kill a horse. They declared their innocence, and one by one were found not guilty and released. In 1872, a large bushfire raged for several days on Pine Hill and resulted in the loss of a couple of dwellings. Although the Marshall's house survived, Robert sought compensation for damage to other parts of their property and again took one of his neighbours to court. It couldn't be proved that the neighbour had started the fire, so Robert Marshall's case was again in vain. Bush, cut firewood and fences were lost a second time in another destructive fire on Pine Hill in 1881. The firewood had been carted to a clearing where it was thought it would be safe, but that proved not to be the case. Household effects were likewise taken out of the house and placed behind a stone wall for safety. Although the inferno came tantalisingly close, the house and effects were spared. Another Pine Hill resident was not so lucky. Michael Barrett and his wife returned to find their home had been turned into a heap of smoking ruins. Robert Marshall didn't take legal action on this occasion, although some other Pine Hill residents did, and again lost. Robert still wasn't done with taking his neighbours to court. In 1890, he took action against a neighbour after 3 of his sheep were killed in separate dog attacks over a period of 5 weeks. But once again, Robert didn't receive the outcome he desired. This 1866 watercolour by George O'Brien shows the residence of George Clifford in the Otago Acclimatisation Society's grounds, where the Dunedin Botanic Garden is today. George Clifford was a commission agent, a founding member of the Acclimatisation Society when it was established in 1864, and the Society's first manager or curator. Initially, the manager's position was unpaid, and Clifford even paid half the cost of the manager's house out of his own pocket. In November 1865, one member of the Otago Provincial Council argued that the land allocated to the Acclimatisation Society could be put to better use, as the only thing the Society had used the grounds for so far was to house one black emu. This close-up of the painting suggests that by the time it was painted in 1866, the emu had been joined by at least one other beast, likely a kangaroo. And here we see the emu invading the cricket pitch during a Sunday school picnic at the grounds. George Clifford was twice robbed here in the 1860s. On the first occasion in 1865, he'd been returning home after a concert where he'd been appointed to collect the entry fee from a section of the audience. The robbers likely assumed he still had the cash from the gate takings on him, so they knocked him unconscious and stole his purse. The purse, which only contained an amount of Clifford's own money and not the takings from the concert, was later found empty and discarded on the road near the gate of the Acclimatisation Society's grounds. The second robbery occurred one night in 1868. Clifford saw a light near hatching boxes containing brown trout ova, which had recently been delivered to the society. And when he went to investigate, he found two men attempting to steal the ova from the boxes. He grabbed hold of one of the men and pressed a stone to his ear, pretending it was a pistol, but was then hit from behind by the second man and they got away. Fortunately, they left without 2 bottles and a tin in which they had been carrying most of the stolen ova. From the surviving ova, Clifford was able to establish a breeding population of brown trout, which led to the opening of New Zealand's first freshwater fishery in Dunedin's Water of Leith in 1874. By then, Clifford had resigned his post and moved away, although he did later return to again live in Dunedin. He was succeeded as curator of the fish hatchery at Opaho by Frank Deans. No time to squeeze another story of Home Sweet Home into this episode, so we'll have to leave it until next time. See you then, and thanks for watching.